Okay, so today we're going deep on some pretty intense stuff.
Yeah.
It's heavy, but it's really important.
Right.
We're going to be looking at burn recovery,
Mm-hmm.
but through like this one person's story.
Oh, wow.
And it's incredibly powerful.
Okay.
So this deep dive is based on a chapter from her book,
Mm-hmm.
and she really focuses in on this one specific thing during her recovery that became kind of like the symbol for her whole experience.
Gotcha.
It was her daily bath.
The daily bath.
Yeah. So just imagine,
Wow.
17-year-old girl,
Okay.
90% burns
Oh, my gosh.
in intensive care.
Yeah.
So we're talking about those really early,
Right.
raw stages of healing.
Yeah.
That's what we're focusing on.
And what's so powerful about this chapter is that it really brings you inside the experience. You know, we always hear about the physical scars from burns, but this really dives into the emotional and psychological parts of recovery.
Exactly.
The bath, you know, it's like such a normal thing for most of us.
Yeah.
But for her, it becomes this really loaded experience.
Yeah, it is. And on a practical level, the book explains that the baths were a medical necessity.
Right.
They had to do it to clean the wounds, to prevent infection,
Of course.
promote healing.
Right.
But then she goes on to describe the actual process, like being moved on this crane gurney,
Oh, wow.
a special tub,
Really?
multiple nurses,
Okay.
unwrapping and rewrapping bandages,
Okay.
medicated solutions.
Mm-hmm.
It's vivid.
Wow.
It's clinical.
Yeah.
It's honestly kind of hard to read
Yeah.
when you think about how much pain she must have been in,
Right.
you know?
And that physical reality combined with the emotional weight
Yes.
is what makes this so powerful.
Right.
The author even talks about begging to skip the bath,
Wow.
even for just one day, because it was just too much to handle emotionally.
Oh my gosh. She describes this feeling of being washed away
Rush away.
during the baths.
Hmm.
Like it wasn't just the dirt and bandages being washed off,
Yeah.
but something deeper.
Right.
It was almost like her sense of self was being stripped away each time.
I think that feeling of being washed away really connects with what we know about trauma.
Right.
There's often this sense of losing control, having your identity shattered.
Yeah.
And in this case, the bath with, you know, being forced to be exposed and vulnerable,
Yeah.
it becomes a symbol of that loss.
So you have this medical necessity, but also this deep psychological impact happening at the same time. So she's going through the motions of healing physically,
Right.
but she's also having to confront this trauma head on every single day.
Exactly. And that makes you wonder,
Right.
could that forced confrontation, I mean, it's necessary for physical healing,
Right.
but could it also be a catalyst for
Yeah.
psychological healing as well?
That's a great question.
Is there something about facing the trauma so directly, so routinely, that forces you to process it differently?
That's such an interesting point because she also mentions
Yeah.
calling her father before every bath.
Oh, wow.
It's like she needed that connection, that support to get through it,
Yeah.
even though he couldn't physically change anything.
And that need for connection
Yeah.
really highlights something so crucial about trauma recovery.
Right.
It's not just about the individual.
Right.
It's about the support system, the people who help you hold on to yourself
Yes.
when everything feels like it's falling apart.
And then there's this incredibly powerful detail
Okay.
about the nurse's eyes.
The nurse's eyes.
Yeah, with all the sterile clothing.
Yeah.
Their eyes were the only part of them she could really see. And she focuses on their gaze, the empathy, maybe even a weariness from witnessing so much suffering.
It's fascinating how she finds comfort in that.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
in this like sterile clinical environment.
Yeah.
Those eyes become this window into shared humanity. It's a reminder that someone sees her,
Right.
understands her pain,
Yeah.
and maybe even shares some of that burden.
It makes you wonder, in a situation where so much of her external world was being controlled, the medical procedures, the pain, the loss of her former life, did finding that connection, that silent communication through their eyes, did that give her back a sense of agency? Like she could still connect, still find strength in other people, even if everything else felt out of control.
It speaks to how we find resilience.
Right.
Even in the most powerless situation, we seek out those points of connection.
Right.
Those little glimmers of hope and understanding to help us anchor ourselves when everything else feels like it's being washed away.
Yeah.
And while she's going through all this, this loss of self, she talks about wrestling with this idea of a sacred plan.
Yeah.
It's like she's trying to make sense of it all. This suffering, this loss of her old life by looking for some kind of higher purpose.
It's a big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why did this happen to me?
Right.
And that search for meaning, that sacred plan, it becomes so connected to her commitment to healing.
Right.
Not just physically, but mentally and spiritually, too.
It's like the bath. This symbol of being stripped bare, physically and emotionally.
Yeah.
It also becomes this place where her faith can grow.
It does. She even says, with every sense of self that was washed away in the bath, a deeper sense of faith anchored within my core.
It's almost like a paradox, isn't it?
Right.
The more she loses, the more she finds strength in something bigger than herself.
It's like she's letting go of her old life.
Right.
And in that letting go, she's finding something new to hold on to.
That's interesting.
She talks about seeing her body in the tub.
Okay.
The exposed bones, the muscle loss.
Oh, gosh.
And wondering, how will I ever walk again?
Yeah.
But even in that despair, there's this glimmer of faith, this belief that she can heal.
It really shows the human capacity for hope.
It does.
Even when things are so terrible.
Yeah.
It's not about ignoring the pain or the loss, but finding a way to hold on to something that gives you the strength to keep going.
Yeah.
To keep believing that healing is possible.
And it's not just like some abstract faith, is it?
No, not at all.
It's tied to concrete actions.
Right.
Her commitment to physical therapy, to pushing through the pain, to doing everything she can to heal.
Right.
It's like her faith is fueling her resilience.
Exactly. It's not just accepting things.
Right.
It's being actively involved in her recovery.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the idea of ritual comes in.
Okay.
The daily bath, even though it was so hard, it becomes this ritual of cleansing.
Okay.
Not just for her wounds, but for her spirit, too.
You can't forget the nurses in all of this either.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
She keeps coming back to their eyes, their silent understanding as a source of strength.
It's like their presence is giving her permission to be vulnerable, to grieve, to really acknowledge what she's going through. It's like they're witnessing her suffering.
Right.
And that just being there with her, that shared humanity, it becomes part of her healing.
It's powerful. It makes me think about how important human connection is.
It is.
When it comes to healing. It's not just about medicine and doctors. Right.
It's about the people around you.
Yeah. Who support you.
Who see you even in your darkest moments.
Exactly.
And remind you you're not alone.
And it's not always about big gestures either.
Right.
Sometimes it's the little things.
Yeah.
A shared understanding.
Right.
That can make the biggest difference.
It's like those moments of connection become these little anchors.
I like that.
Helping you stay afloat when everything else feels like it's being washed away.
That's a great way to put it. And I think that's what's so inspiring about this story.
Yeah.
It shows how strong the human spirit can be, how resilient, how hopeful, even in the most unexpected places.
Makes you think about the rituals we have in our own lives, right?
It really does.
Even the little ones.
Yeah.
Maybe not as extreme as this daily bath.
Right.
Still those moments where we have to face difficult truths or process tough emotions.
Absolutely. Could be something like journaling.
Oh, yeah.
Meditation even.
Yeah.
Or like a certain workout routine, right? Anything that makes you be present.
Yeah.
Confront discomfort, those feelings you don't want to deal with.
You got to sit with it sometimes.
It's so easy to push those things aside.
It is.
When life gets busy.
Yeah.
But this story, it really shows how important those moments are.
It does. They may not be fun.
Right.
But they're so valuable.
Yeah, for growth.
It's like they say, the only way out is through. You can't heal what you don't acknowledge.
Right.
And those rituals, those moments of confrontation, they can be the way to deeper understanding and healing.
This author's story is just...
It is.
So raw, so honest.
Yeah.
I really admire her for sharing it.
I agree.
It's powerful. It reminds us that even when we feel broken, lost, washed away, there's still that spark inside, ready to be rekindled.
And it speaks to the power of sharing your story, too.
Yeah.
Sometimes hearing what someone else went through,
Right.
it gives you the courage to face your own challenges.
It does.
To believe that you can heal, too.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I'd love to hear what resonated with you.
Yeah.
What are those rituals in your own life, the ones that force you to face the tough stuff?
Right.
And how do those moments, even though they can be hard,
Yeah.
help you find strength and meaning?
It's a question we should all think about.
Yeah.
Because I think we all think about.
Yeah.
Because I think we all have them.
I do.
Those rituals, those practices, those things that make us grow and heal and become stronger.
Well said. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a tough topic.
It has.
But I think ultimately, a hopeful one.
It is.
One that gives us inspiration